Under the rule of the Emperor Heraclius, Byzantium experienced a revival. He defeated the Persians and invaded the Sassanid Empire, ending years of hostilities. Yet, he was now exhausted by a long period of bitter theological disagreements, constant warfare, administrative failures, and an empire ravaged by disease and financial turmoil. While celebrating his victory over the Persians in 628, Heraclius received an emissary wearing simple clothing, covered in dust, and tightly clutching a rolled-up parchment. The Arab emissary strode determinedly into the courtroom, unfazed by his rich surroundings, his mission clear. He was received with courtesy, yet with a tinge of suspicion. Unfurling the parchment, the messenger addressed the emperor directly. He had been sent by the holy prophet Muhammad to invite Heraclius and his people to the folds of Islam. The offer was politely declined. The emissary, lavished with gifts and respectfully dispatched. Later, the emperor would encounter Abu Sufyan, the merchant leader in Mecca, who at the time was staunchly opposed to the prophet and his divine mission. The emperor inquired as to the holy prophet's character. Reluctantly, Abu Sufyan spoke of the messenger's upright and virtuous character, and spoke evenly of his trustworthiness. Heraclius recognized these righteous attributes as those preserved in the body and soul of a long line of prophets. Nevertheless, soon Byzantium and the Caliphate would be locked in a bitter struggle for supremacy. Keen to invite other Arab tribes to embrace Islam, the Holy Prophet sent one of his companions, Al-Harith ibn Umar al-Azdi, north, with a message to the Byzantine governor of Busra, Al-Ghassani, an Arab-Byzantine ally from the Sassanid tribe. He confronted Al-Harith ibn Umar and then murdered him. Outraged by the death of his Muslim companion, the Holy Prophet ordered an army of 3,000 soldiers to move on the Byzantine Empire, with strict orders not to pillage or slaughter innocent people. The small Muslim force left for Syria, and the stage had been set for the first battle to be fought between the Byzantines and the Muslims. The Muslim army marched until they reached a small village by the name of Matna in Syria. They quickly learned that a sizable Byzantine force was encamped nearby. Outnumbered, the Muslim commander Zayd ibn Haritha decided that they would stand their ground at a nearby village named Mutta, and it was there that the battle took place. The battle was intense and bloody. Zayd, as well as two of the senior Muslim officers, fell. Leadership switched to the famed Khalid ibn Walid, whose canniness and tactical leadership would help the small Muslim contingent survive a relentless wave of Byzantine attacks. The Muslims fought a rearguard retreat until night fell. Under the cover of darkness, Khalid ordered for the wings of the army to change and for the foot soldiers to switch positions, as well as ordering his cavalry to create clouds of dust and to clamber around in the gloom to create the impression of arriving reinforcements. The ruse worked. Khalid ordered a fierce attack which shook the larger Byzantine force. This allowed the smaller army to retreat and to return to Medina. Although not an all-out victory, Khalid was able to save the Muslim contingent from complete annihilation. By 634, Heraclius had fallen ill and could no longer take to the field. Without his steady leadership, imperial forces suffered a string of defeats. The Rashidun army scored an important victory at the Battle of Ajnadian, a further victory at Fahr, Muslim forces then took Damascus. Disheartened but not broken, the Byzantines rallied under the dual leadership of Theodore Trithyrius and the Armenian general Vayan, determined to reconquer the lands lost to the Muslims. In 636, Khalid ibn Walid displayed his tactical brilliance yet again at the Battle of Yarmouk. He lured the Byzantines into a tight valley situated near to the river Jordan. Initially, command fell to the trusted Abu Ubaidah. However, understanding that Khalid possessed a stronger grasp of military strategy, he ceded authority to the veteran commander. Meanwhile, the Byzantines had struck a treaty with their former enemies, the Sassanids, in the hope of joining their forces and driving the Muslims out of their respective lands. However, the Persians were delayed by long preparations. The Byzantines decided to strike alone. Khalid surveyed the land and ordered a tactical retreat to even ground, which would allow his light cavalry to dominate the field. The fighting was initiated with a series of duels, with Muslim champions besting their foes. Vayan ordered a screening attack against the Muslim lines, hoping to find a weakness. The fighting was more of a light skirmish than a pitched battle, with neither side giving ground. At the day's end, the Byzantines withdrew. At dusk, Vayan launched a surprise attack, knowing that the Muslims would be busy offering their morning prayer. Anticipating such an attack, Khalid had positioned a scouting party to watch his enemy, and he was quickly notified of their impending attack. The Byzantines launched a full onslaught. Their flanks beat the Muslims all the way back to their camp, only to find that the women at the encampment had snatched up weapons to meet the enemy and were encouraging their men to fight on. Galvanized and ashamed, the Muslim army held and was supported by Khalid's reserve forces. Twice more the Byzantines threw the Muslims back, yet Khalid used his reserve cavalry to rush the Byzantine lines, pushing them back. The battle ebbed and flowed for 5 days. Sensing that his own forces were at breaking point, Vayan sued for peace. Surprisingly, Khalid refused, knowing that now was the time to strike. On the 6th day, Khalid rallied his troops and launched an all-out attack on the Byzantines. Under the cover of darkness, the Muslim commander dispatched a cavalry force to completely flank the Byzantine army and to cut off their line of retreat. The next day, the battle commenced with another duel, with Abu Ubaidah stepping forward and defeating a senior Byzantine commander. Then the Muslims charged. Khalid led his full cavalry on a flanking maneuver, attacking the Byzantine left. The opposing cavalry units were unable to prepare in time, and the Muslim cavalry charged into the Byzantine centre. The imperial troops routed in disarray, surrounded by enemy on all sides, and left at the mercy of the unforgiving terrain. Panic spread like a firestorm. Khalid, known for his chivalry, allowed the surviving Byzantine troops to retreat from the field. The battle at Yarmouk proved to be a stunning victory for the Muslims, and a final defeat for the Byzantines. In 637, the Byzantines lost Jerusalem to Muslim forces after the Patriarch Sophronius surrendered the city to the Caliph Umar. No property was seized and no life was taken, as Umar entered the city in peace, careful to show leniency and respect to the inhabitants. By 640, Egypt had fallen into Muslim hands when Amr ibn al-As led an expeditionary force into North Africa, taking Babylon and Alexandria in quick succession. With much of its territory lost to the Rashidun Caliphate and then to the Umayyads, the Byzantines still held on and had an empire to preserve, and would do so until the rise of the Ottoman Empire. Until next time, thank you for listening.